It's July, and that means that we're more than halfway through 2017, and I have been long overdue on creating my personal thoughts and creating a state of the game for Titanfall 2. Since the release of Titanfall 2, nearly all of the DLC that we've gotten has been a rehash of Titanfall 1 content. While it's hard to blame Respawn for doing something like this, given that the entire community was screaming, "These maps suck, bring back Titanfall 1 maps," I do honestly believe that Respawn has gone a little bit too far off the deep end when bringing these maps back. Every quote-unquote real map that we've gotten so far has been a return to Titanfall 1's design space, which I've seen quite a lot of controller players actually complaining about. Of course, there's the exception of Glitch, which is a fantastic pilots versus pilots map, but that's really it, and that's kind of the exception to what we're talking about here. This complaining from controller players is in large part due to the aim assist on rifles being as strong as it is, and the G2 strengths in particular are absolutely exaggerated on maps like Angel City and Colony, which are, well, the epitome of Titanfall 1 map design. And you know, these controller players, they're not wrong. The G2 really is a stupid gun, especially on consoles, and it feels bad that it's been the way that it is for so long without any actual changes coming to it yet. This gun was problematic in Titanfall 1, and it remains a problem this time around too, unfortunately. An argument can be made, though, for Titanfall 2's map design helping to alleviate at least some of the pains caused by this weapon, and I guess any assault rifle in general, and we can easily point to two of the most recent DLC maps as great examples of this. Relic and Wargames in particular are some good steps in, well, the right direction, because they favor Titanfall 2's core map design philosophy better. Fewer rooftops, more impassable walls, and forced Titan lanes with fewer opportunities to deviate and cross those lanes, less Swiss cheese. Relic shares a lot of similarities with Eden, and that there's really just no good rooftops to control besides each team's base, and lines of sight are oftentimes awkward and only very few good head glitch spots actually exist. These are all good traits, especially in Titanfall 2 versus the original game. With the overall improvement of the netcode in this game, the slight reduction in player gravity, standardization of animations, addition of big body characters, laser beam SMGs, and at the high level, the neutering of eject strafing, it's easier than ever to hit enemies. Much easier. Because of this, times to kill feel faster than ever, even in cases where they're identical to Titanfall 1. By combining these things with wide varieties of rooftops and the head glitch spots rampant on Angel City and Colony, you've got a game that feels extremely uninteractive and dominated by assault rifles on console. In making the game better, Respawn inadvertently made the game worse, kind of. But to their credit, they're seeing the same things that we as players are feeling, and they're experimenting with both high times to kill and some nondescript aim assist changes as well, so that's pretty good. However, it took them, 9 months now to get to this point, and these changes aren't even permanent yet? I get it. Game development is hard, and you can only do so much so fast, and you've only got so many people to do it. But the current state of the game is that a lot of the player base is in a depression because these changes are simply not coming to the game fast enough. A lot of these blames can be placed on the console certification process, sure, but the majority of end users just don't see that. They're never even going to know that that exists, and they're never going to understand why updates can't come faster. They just see the tone was overpowered for a good 3 to 4 months, that the devotion was overpowered for a good 6. Hemlock was stupid for a long time, with seemingly no fixes in Bound, and I mean, the list keeps going on, but I don't need to go through everything. The changes to all these things did eventually come, which is good, of course, and credit to Respawn for never knee-jerk nerfing these things and actually taking their time to get them right. Small gradual nerfs to slowly massage them into the correct place is just in a vacuum the better way of doing it, although to a lot of players it's going to feel terrible and they're going to think that Respawn has no idea what they're doing, but I do think that the way that they've gone about these nerfs and doing them in small stepwise fashions is generally the right thing. Sometimes, though, the perception of balance is more important than actual game balance, and nerfing things into the ground as a knee-jerk, while it's probably bad for the health of the game overall, in the short term might actually be a good thing, where you just knee-jerk destroy something and then kind of build it back up a little bit over time. Maybe that's okay too. It's really hard to say what is a more correct way of doing it. I personally am a fan of the small stepwise nerfs, but I mean, a lot of the player base seems like they're not, so I don't know. Maybe it's better to do just a big slam. But anyways, we're getting way too far off topic. Let's get back onto the maps, because that's what we were originally even talking about here, and we can kind of tie all this back together, I promise. These remakes of Wargames and Relic that we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago are good for the game because they alleviate a lot of these problems that we were just talking about. They much better fit Titanfall 2's map design philosophy, and by fitting the map design philosophy, they're more easy to balance the game around. I actually hated these two maps in particular in Titanfall 1 because they didn't fit that game's playstyle. They didn't gel with the map design philosophy in general of that game. But in Titanfall 2, they're fantastic, and they fit much, much better. If those really early data mine leaks way back in the day are to be believed, then Relic is going to be that 5th DLC map. Well, I guess it's the 6th DLC map, kinda, but it's like the 5th remake map that we're going to be getting. If we do in fact get Relic, then that's going to throw a huge wrench in everyone's game plan for this game, and it's going to allow for some super cool long-range Scorch barrel bounces in particular. So if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, then I suggest you go watch my Scorch guide from way back in the day, which I'll try to leave a link to if I'm not dumb and remember to do it. But anyways, big point that I'm trying to make here, Scorch's barrels, you shoot them like up in the air, you shoot them at a wall, they bounce. It's really, really good for getting behind a tone particle wall and stuff like that. So like, Rise is all about these super tall, super flat, really nice walls everywhere. So like, you can just have these long, thin hallways, and you bounce those barrels way down the hallway, and you can just annihilate entire enemy teams who are trying to like peek you or whatever. But I mean, that's obviously the perfect scenario, which is probably never going to happen, and Scorch is probably just going to get murdered by teams of 5 North Stars that use nothing but the penetrating shot, and they shoot your whole team all at the same time, all like in one big burst, and Ion's just peeking with the laser shots or whatever, and it's going to be horrible, and I'm going to uninstall the game. But it's really cool to think about and hope that maybe Scorch will be playable one day. I really hope he can be. Rise has like so much potential to actually be a map he could be played on, but it probably won't be. Who knows? Moving on to the live fire maps, these are cool and actually original creations, which is really good because everyone has had enough of these remastered maps. We're just really happy to have something that's actually new. If you make any more full maps at this point, Respawn, let's see some original stuff. Flex those map-making muscles a little bit more. We really want to see what you've learned in the game in these 9 months, what you've learned about how people play it and how they approach it, and hopefully you can make some new stuff that's tailor-made to this game's strengths, and they're going to be an absolute blast to play on because Glitch is an overwhelming success. It plays so well because everything is crafted to suit the way that this game actually works. It's really, really good, and I specifically love the fact that you have those really tall, nearly impassable walls that kind of delineate lanes, but they're not completely impassable. If you climb all the way up, you can run across them. If you eject, you can eject over them. There's not invisible walls, there's not impossibly infinitely tall buildings or whatever. There is some sort of freedom in the map without actually creating that super nuts Swiss cheese Titanfall 1 style. Like, you guys captured that super well in Glitch, and I really hope that you can bring some other new, original stuff to Titanfall 2 that can at least use other things like that, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to repeat that same thing, but there's just those little tweaks where you're kind of taking some of Titanfall 1, some of Titanfall 2, taking what works best from both and combining it into something that actually is this really beautiful amalgamation of mechanics. And I really hope that you guys can come up with some more stuff and that you have more maps in the pipeline because there's so much potential there, and I really hope that it can be tapped. Moving on to Titans. 9 months into the release of Titanfall 2, or close enough anyways, right? Titan balance has remained pretty stagnant since day one. Ion is still the best Titan in the game. Ronin is publicly top tier now, but has been secret top tier since day one. Northstar is still somehow secret top tier. I have no idea why people are not playing her more, but she is top tier. She is freaking amazing, and no, she does not need any buffs. You need to just get better at her. Legion is only good because a bug got patched and because he got the most broken kit ever in Hidden Compartment, and Monarch got put into the game, making something actually easy bait for him. And Scorch is still awful against anyone with a brain, which these days seems to be surprisingly few people. Toad is the only one that received consistent changes and was even spat on with the completely unusable and horrible Burst Fire kit, just for good measure. If we don't see some love for Scorch in the July patch, I'm gonna be really disappointed. He's been pointless against good players for a pretty long time now, and all he's good for is attempting some sick Scorch flanks on unsuspecting teams of players using 70-degree field of view and TV speakers instead of headphones that neither hear nor see him slowly, painstakingly coming up to them. It's absolutely absurd that people think this actually works against players that have any awareness, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. On a side tangent really quickly, I've been seeing a lot of disappointment at the patch notes lately for the past few patches as well. Oftentimes big changes go completely undocumented, and other times changes that are documented don't actually happen in that patch. The two major examples on both sides that I can think of are, for the former, Stalkers becoming deadly to Titans when stepped on, and for the latter, we were promised a chat box in Private Match on PC, yet never actually got it, and I am unreasonably mad about it. Online, I've defended Jay and everyone else involved in getting these patch notes together because I know how hard it is to put this stuff together and have it be 100% accurate. Trying to ping over 100 people and keep everyone organized and on task and figuring out, what did you do that made it into the patch? What did you do that didn't make it? Do you guys even know? Because it's I'm sure that it can be hard to even keep track of that from their perspective, let alone Jay's. I totally get how it's easy to make mistakes. Developers across the lands making all sorts of different games and putting patch notes out for them have been making errors all the time on patch notes. It's not a new thing. Jay is not worse than anyone else. It's just a hard job to get right. It's a really, really hard thing to get right. Not even Blizzard can do it right. Blizzard makes problems with it too, and Blizzard are supposed to be the best ever, aren't they? It happens. However, with that said, I'm sure the feedback is still loud and clear on their side, and I'm sure that there's going to be some more things coming from Respawn's perspective that will help to make the patch notes better in the future, and I really hope that it's not just eliminating patch notes because people yell about them too much. I really hope that there can be some positive changes happening, but you guys gotta understand, you can't be corralling 100+ people and getting everything totally perfect. There's gonna be things that slip through the cracks. It's gonna happen. So the real metric should not be if they're 100% correct on release, but rather within 24 hours, can they be edited and updated and gotten correct once the players realize, oh, this was wrong, this is kind of not quite right, and then you kind of sculpt it into something that's perfect. I mean, that's good enough. That's about the best you could possibly hope for in a living, breathing game like this. So try not to be too harsh on them, because they're doing a fine job on this front, guys. They really are. The game is doing fine. I think this is a community problem, not a game or developer problem. Let's jump back to the game balance front now. Arc grenades in particular, they were finally nerfed, which is great, although they're still, just in general, I feel a really awful mechanic to even exist in this game. They're just that one great equalizer with no counterplay other than stay back and use an assault rifle like everyone else, which I think just sent a chill down every console player's spines because everyone is sick of that playstyle, so much from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, so I don't know, it's a tough spot. Let's go ahead and talk some gun balance. The pilot weapons are pretty much in line at this point, I would say, with the exception of the R97 and the G2 in particular. The R97 can be fixed with nerfs, and it just frankly got overbuffed a few patches ago, and honestly can be reverted to either the launch version or the launch version plus that one first buff that came to it, which I don't even remember what it was, but that one small buff made a pretty big difference in how it performed, and that was really good enough. The gun got 2 or 3 more buffs after that for no reason, and it pushed it from being a solid, well-balanced SMG into absurd tier. So I really hope that they can get that fixed up sometime soon, but something tells me that it's never going to get changed. The G2, though, I'm not sure a numbers change is ever going to get that gun just right. A systematic aim assist change is more likely than not the proper way to go from a pure balance perspective, but at this point, people are used to the way they move, and they're used to the way that they aim, and changing that at this point, I feel is probably suicide for Respawn. In the current state of the game, Titanfall 2 is just at an impasse, and the G2 is really a symptom of a bigger problem. Who should Respawn try to appeal to? What kind of crowd? The high time to kill crowd? The low time to kill crowd? Is changing aim assist socially the correct thing to do? And will it make their game more successful? Will it improve player retention? Will it sell more copies of their game? These are impossible questions that Respawn is just going to have to come up with answers to, and all I know is that I want to be as far away from their conference rooms as humanly possible when it's time to make those choices, because it's gonna get messy, really messy. To summarize so far, people want new stuff without the game being changed too much on a fundamental level. People want to experience Titanfall 2 in new ways without breaking up that core gameplay experience, and to an extent, it looks like we're getting just that. Frontier defense is inevitable at this point. It's the world's just worst kept secret ever. It's coming at the perfect time in the game's lifespan when everyone is emo and craving something new, but it's especially spicy because Titanfall 2 is on its way to EA and Origin access very, very soon. By these two things combined, player counts and player retention should hopefully undergo a really big upswing, at least for a little while. And if you don't know what EA and Origin access are, to my knowledge, it's basically you just pay like a monthly or yearly fee, and then you get access to a wide variety of games in the EA/Origin library. So that way you can spend, I don't know what the price is, but I'm going to just make something up here just for example purposes, like $50 a year, and you can play Titanfall 2, you can play The Sims, you can play Battlefield 1, you can play all kinds of other games as much as you want, as long as you just pay that monthly fee. So instead of buying the individual games, you just spend a monthly or yearly fee, and then you get access to all of them. So it's a really interesting system that I think a lot of people use and appreciate, and having Titanfall 2 appear in this platform is going to dramatically increase the player base, I think. Maybe it's going to be less marketed of an increase than I think, but I really hope that we're getting a couple of thousand people on PC out of this, because that would be really, really insanely healthy for the game. And of course, I personally have some selfish vested interest in that because I make content for the game, so I want people to watch my content. More eyes on the game means more eyes on my content. So I really hope that this does work out because it's beneficial to everyone involved. Both content, well, I guess not both, but it's beneficial to EA, it's beneficial to Respawn, it's beneficial to me and other content creators, and it's beneficial to the player base as a whole, because that means you have more noobs to stomp on, you have more players to just populate your servers, you can find less populated modes more easily. Just, it's a good thing for the game. There is absolutely no downside to this happening to the game. No matter how cool the prospect of more players coming to the game is, there are still some sour feelings about the game from some of the existing player base, myself definitely included. But despite that, to my eye, player counts seem relatively stable, at least on PC. That's the only place I really know what they even are. And everyone seems to still be liking the core game just because that player count is seeming pretty stable. So I hope that all that Respawn really needs to do is just give us more stuff. Respawn has been really communicative about the game to us, and they're usually really quick on small updates that can be done server-side, earning the faith of the really dedicated fans that are still playing. Which, if you're still watching this video, that's you. You're one of those people, so thank you for your dedication to the game. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on what new stuff is on the horizon. Titanfall 2 has really been grating on me a lot lately personally, but I still love the franchise, the devs, just all of it. I love the game. I hope that in a few months we can get some fixes out for Melee, for Scorch, the R97, the G2, alongside some truly new maps that are available outside of just Livefire. So what do you guys think? What's your feel for the current state of the game? Remember that these are all just my personal opinions and evaluations, and if you've had a different experience, then let me know. Respawn loves reading through community feedback, even in YouTube comments, so I encourage you guys to share your thoughts. At worst, it simply gets noted but not responded to, but at best, Your post could be the catalyst that inspires a developer to make a change, benefiting the game in a big way. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you found this insightful, and if you think this video sucks, then let me know. I look forward to reading all your guys' comments, both positive and negative. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. You guys take care.